This is a time to end Guantanamo, not set its worst features in stone. A recent empirical survey by two former prosecutors, federal prosecutor, reviewed every terrorism case, 120 cases, in the federal courts over the past 15 years and concludes that the existing federal court system can be adapted to try terrorists. And at the end of the day, the question should be, would a terror court have any credibility abroad? Who would respect the judgments of a secret, extraordinary court designed to punish a particular class of suspects based on their religion for crimes that couldn't be prosecuted in open court? And why shouldn't a system of preventive detention become a breeding ground for terrorists, just like the British prisons for Northern Irish were? And finally, why should we accept that indefinite detention without trial is a permanent feature of a post-9/11 world? And we should look into the possibility of revising the Foreign Intelligence Amendments of 2008, which were passed in panic during the pre-election period, and go back and reconsider the role of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. And fourth and finally, we should support international law and institutions. We should make our support official for the International Criminal Court. The Bush administration has spent an extraordinary amount of time attacking the court, and in fact, for the last 4 years, has accepted its existence, particularly with regard to the prosecution of high-level leaders in Sudan and Uganda and the Congo. That means that the new Secretary of State, whoever he is or she is, should re-sign the International Criminal Court Treaty, re-engage diplomatically, to seek resolution of our concerns and pave the way for our eventual ratification. We should support the prosecutions by the ICC in Darfur. We should give support to the prosecutorial staff of the criminal court as we did for the Yugoslavian and Rwandan tribunals. We should adopt the recommendations of the Genocide Prevention Task Force, and we should promote accountability by beefing up the position of ambassador at large, broadening the mandates of the Anti-Trafficking and War Crimes Unit in the Justice Department's Criminal Division, appointing someone in the Civil Division of the Justice Department to promote accountability efforts and make sure that inappropriate claims of government immunity are not made. And finally, at the earliest opportunity, we should move to ratify long overdue international treaties, particularly the American Convention on Human Rights, the Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the Covenant on the Discrimination Against Women, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which incredibly only one other nation in the world has not ratified. One other nation, that is Somalia. The reason they haven't ratified it is they have no organized government. We have no explanation. And we should resume our position as a leader by actually promoting the Convention Against Disabilities, which we've forsaken, and promoting the Convention Against Forced Disappearances, which we have not supported, and to seek a seat on the UN Human Rights Council and engage with the Secretary General and High Commissioner for Human Rights for a common agenda. Now, this seems like a big task, but it needs to be done and fast. I know the last 8 years have been tiring, but in fact, mark this, the last 8 years are much less important than the next 8, because the next 8 will determine whether the pendulum of U.S. policy will swing back from where it's been pushed, or will it stay at this extreme position that it has been brought to. We cannot let our human rights and law policy be subsumed by the war on terror. There are too many other global issues that demand our attention. And again, this is not a partisan point. Which presidential candidate said this? We Americans recall the words of our founders in the Declaration of Independence. We must pay decent respect to the opinions of mankind. We have to live up to our own high standards of morality and responsibility. We cannot torture or treat inhumanely the suspected terrorists we have captured. We must fight the terrorists but defend the rights at the foundation of our society. The speaker, of course, was John McCain, but the same has been said just as strongly by Senator Obama, who said simply, we're going to lead by example by maintaining the highest standards of civil liberties and human rights, which is why I will close Guantanamo, restore habeas, say no to torture. Now, obviously, we need to ask our government to speak up for these 4 steps: telling the truth, ending double standards, putting our house in order, supporting law and institutions. But the truth of it is, whichever administration is elected, its leaders will have its own reasons why it will be hard to change course, which is why we, the people, can't leave it to the politicians. The core concern of politicians is politics. It's been up to the average citizen who has resisted this trend over the last few years. It was career Justice Department officials who resisted government wiretapping. It was a horrified soldier who gave digital photos to the press that exposed Abu Ghraib. It was career military and government lawyers who spoke up against torture and wireless wiretapping. And it was that crazy group of radicals, the librarians of America, who stood up to protest the extension of the Patriot Act to library records. So if you're thinking, what can ordinary people do to change the course of human history, then think of Rosa Parks, who thought the same before she said, "As for me, I'm not moving to the back of the bus." Or Jackie Robinson, who must have had that thought, what can one man do, before he went out to play on an all-white baseball team. And they're not alone. Around the world, there are human rights heroes like Nelson Mandela, Aung San Suu Kyi, Václav Havel, who had the courage to stand up. And you don't have to be a world historic figure. If you saw Hotel Rwanda, you know that a quiet hotel keeper, Paul Rusesabagina, who had never done anything heroic, armed only with his wits, a fax machine, and a few bottles of scotch, saved hundreds of his countrymen from genocide. I think Robert Kennedy said it best when he spoke in 1966, in the words now inscribed on his tomb. He said, "It's from numberless diverse acts of courage that human history is shaped. Each time a person stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope that, crossing each other from a million centers of energy and daring, build the current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance." And as proof that he was right, look where he said that. South Africa, a country now transformed by 1 million individual acts of courage. So why is it important that each of us be involved? Because don't you know that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that the Constitution we have was to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity? So, which is what I'm saying is that ours is a country built on human rights. Our human rights reputation defines who we are as a nation and a people. And if we don't stand for human rights, we don't know who we are anymore. So let me close with the words of Langston Hughes. He wrote, "Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, the land that never has been yet and yet must be, the land where every man is free. We must take back our land again, America. We, the people, must redeem and make America America again." Restoring our human rights reputation is too important a job to leave to politicians. It's a challenge for each and every one of us. So thank you for listening. Thank you for dedicating yourself to this critical work, which is making America America again. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a special forum featuring Harold Hongju Koh, Dean and the Gerard C. and Bernice Latrobe Smith Professor of International Law at the Yale Law School. Now, we'd like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphone today is City Club Assistant Director of Development, Marcella Brown. May we have your first question, please? And Dean Koh, would you please return to the lectern?